Was Kiss the greatest live band in history? Let's talk about it. So now that Kiss has officially ended their touring career, other than the avatars that they promised to inflict upon the world, it's time to sit back and assess whether or not they lived up to their often repeated claim of being the world's greatest live band. After all, every single Kiss concert started with the famous words,
"You wanted the best! You got the best! The hottest band in the world! Kiss!"
Now, question is, were Kiss the greatest live band in history? Were they actually the hottest band in the land? To answer that question, you have to go beyond issues of pure musicality and consider issues of theatricality and performance and even controlling of image and merchandising that normally people don't consider when you ask the question, who was the greatest live band in history? So what we're really talking about here isn't who was the greatest band musically, but who provided the ultimate live experience. Kiss would tell you that their live show, their image, their music, everything about the band was designed to create the greatest live experience of any band. Now, were they successful in doing so? I'm going to tell you what I think, but before I do, let's listen to Ace Frehley talk about certain aspects of Kiss's live appeal. Here's Ace Frehley.
The thing about Kiss, everybody used to say, is you got to go see them live. You got to see the show. And I think what made Alive so popular is the fact that it was like a souvenir from a Kiss concert. You know, it had the booklet with pictures of us performing live. It was a live album. You know, it was produced by Eddie Kramer. And, okay, so maybe some of the stuff was re-recorded.
Some of it was.
We've all heard the stories.
That happens with so many bands, though.
It happens with a lot of live albums. But, you know, the speed and the essence of our concert performance is still captured on that record.
Okay, so this is very important because it points out a number of things that are unique to Kiss and have to do with whether or not they're the greatest live experience in rock and roll history. And the first thing is that Kiss Alive was the album that broke the band. It was the album that sent the band out of its niche audience into the mainstream audience. And as far as I know, it's the first live album to really break a band. And the second important thing that he pointed out in there is that the live album wasn't completely live. Now, I've done another video on Kiss Alive 1 specifically, detailing on whether or not the album was doctored enough in the studio to make that radical of a difference. And my conclusion was that if you go back and listen to the raw audio from the concerts and then compare it to the studio doctored version of Kiss Alive product, there's not that big of a difference. So what you're hearing when you listen to Kiss Alive 1 is, as Ace just pointed out there, a very faithful recreation of what it was like to experience the band live. So we have an audio record of Kiss in their prime, and it's slanted through a bit of studio wizardry to put you in a front row seat. We also have a lot of footage of Kiss from the same time period, the early to mid 70s, available on YouTube that you can look at to see their incredible choreography and the insane amount of discipline it takes for them to put on a show of such intricacy night after night after night. So when Kiss is performing at their peak in the 70s, they're not just playing their instruments and recreating the songs, they're doing this entire pre-created choreography, just like a dancing numbers, only created to reflect the essence of each of their archetypal characters in the band. And something else to point out is if you watch the old video clips of Kiss, they seldom, if ever, break character during their performances. So you really are in a complete 100% fantasy performance space when you go to a Kiss show. This is something that I've heard Gene and Paul point out over and over that they didn't like about bands that they would go to see as fans. They would go to see the band and they'd see the guy like scratching his nose and, yawning and arguing with one of the stage engineers, or just generally doing natural human things on stage. Kiss went way out of their way to eliminate all of the normal human moves from their routine, so that when you see them on stage, you're just seeing characters portrayed and reflected. And this is something to keep in mind when determining whether or not they are one of the best, if not the best, live bands in history. One of the important things to keep in mind here is that everything Kiss does as a band in the 70s particularly, whether from the way they dress, their makeup to not being photographed in public, and their choreography on stage, is all done with a premeditated, predetermined idea of producing an impact on their fan base and the audience. Now here's Paul Stanley from the famous Tom Snyder Tomorrow Show interview. Let's listen to him talk about how Kiss's over-the-top performances and image is an integral part of the entire band. Here's Paul Stanley.
What would happen if you went out on stage for a concert and you didn't set off the fireworks and you didn't break up the guitar and you didn't have the smoke and the fire and the blood and all that, and you just came out and did your thing? What would they come to the concert?
It would still be a rip-roaring rock and roll show, because what we do when we go out there is we don't stand still when we play our instruments. We run around and pretty much raise hell. Can we say that on TV?
Yes, you can.
Well, we raise hell.
TV.
I have medals from, early days in high school, track, and I'm sure we're four very athletic young gentlemen.
No, I think, this is our thing, going out like this. So if we didn't go out like this, a lot of people would be really disappointed, because Kiss is known for the big show. So why shouldn't we go out and do what people expect?
Alright, so there's more to that than giving people what they expect. It's delivering a larger-than-life performance to go along with a larger-than-life image, to go along with rock and roll myth, and to create an experience for the fan that they cannot get somewhere else. So what we can see so far, just by the bits we've covered, is that Kiss tied in the live experience of rock and roll more closely to what they did than any band that came before them, and possibly than any band that's come after them. They made the live experience of their show and of their music such a substantial part of the experience that it was inseparable. So you could listen to the Beatles and fully enjoy them without ever expecting to see them live. In fact, they stopped touring. That's not true with Kiss, as Ace pointed out and as Paul pointed out in those two clips. Without seeing the band live, you haven't actually experienced the band. And Gene Simmons is on record in other places of saying, Kiss is basically a mythological experience with an audio accompaniment. So when you're talking about whether or not they were the greatest live band in history, it's not purely about music, it's about their overall impact on the audience, including all of the theatrics, the blood spitting, the fire breathing, and explosions. So if you sat down in a really good seat at a concert in the mid-70s and you were going to see the Grateful Dead, or you were going to see Kiss, or you were going to see Led Zeppelin, or you're going to see the Rolling Stones, you're going to get completely different experiences in each one of those settings. And it's not just based on the music, it's based on the way the music is presented to you. So I want you to consider all of that when you decide whether or not you think Kiss is the greatest live band ever. Did they live up to their hype? If you factor in other things than pure musicality, does this change your appraisal of the band? And should it? And if so, what does that mean in terms of where music may go in the future? I'm going to leave you with those thoughts, and I'm also, for once, not going to tell you my verdict on this particular question. I may do so in a follow-up video, but I'm actually more interested to hear what you have to say. So if you have a thought on this or any other topic connected to classic or contemporary music, please drop it in the section below, and remember to like and subscribe. Also, I'd like to point out that there's a new join button available for those of you who would like to support the site. If you join, you'll have access to members-only polls, members-only videos, and a lot of other cool perks that you can see by clicking on the join button, which I hope you'll do. Thanks a lot.